My name's Adrian Jones. I'm the country manager for Gatewatcher in the UK. What I am joined with is Francois Lamont. We both work for Gatewatcher. It is an engineering security firm. I know that sounds insane that I've actually just said we're a security firm, but we are a security firm. We do military-grade hardened technology for critical national infrastructure, banking, finance, and we're talking about advanced persistent threats and CTI.
Just for a small fact, Gatewatcher wrote every 6 months a semester report about the different vulnerability techniques. On top, we analyze on site for the cyber threat intelligence part. So it could be maybe interest you for technical and non-technical part, because we talk about sector targeted and all other things like that. I think it's okay for me.
That's a great start. Thank you very much. What does that mean to you? That means we publish for free on the website the cyber threat barometer that you can click on, and you can see all the IRCs, all the CVEs, all of the targeted threats, what they are, and what they are turned into, and where they go as a snapshot. And they'll talk about what the nasty things are that are happening at that moment or in the last month. And we publish that regularly. Just before we move on to our next slide, talk a little bit more about us and who we are. When we first met, which was a year 18 months ago, I said to him, so back in February 22, we saw this threat profile, which was obviously post-war. And the targeted audience was banking, and then it was cryptocurrency. And then February 23, I said, what is the difference? Why has crypto dropped off? Okay, crypto's become less interesting because no one wants to steal it. But media jumped straight in at number 2 because there was a war. And I said, well, hold on. There's a difference there about operating systems. This one versus this one versus that, Apple versus Microsoft versus Unix. Why is that different? Is that something that's happened? Is that something the market's changed? What's changed? And he said to me, no, we just got better at detecting it. We are constantly playing catch up, and we are pretty good, I think. But you said to me today, I think, can we look at all vulnerabilities every day? We do.
It's an automated platform, so we have analysts for when you have a doubt, but all the platform is automating end-to-end to have a really quick answer for our customers. So I don't follow thousands and millions of analysts per day. So,
really?
Yes.
So how many things do you think we look at every day? Everyone's down there talking about vulnerabilities, yeah? Threats, CVEs. How many do you think a day happen? Tonga. What does that mean? 10? 50? 14,000. Okay, we got 14,000. Have I got any bets on more than 14,000? 15,000. Come on, there's big money on this. Higher than 15,000. How many?
I have no idea. Honestly, per days.
More than a million?
No, we don't stand a chance, do we?
Yes. If you succeed with Gatewatcher analysis, NDR part, and the last emphatic part, yes, it could be a huge amount.
So the huge amount things is more than a million. So the speed of the computers that we're building for AI to recognize CVEs that are being built by AI is getting quicker every day. So when anyone there says, oh, there's a real threat, you're really at risk, you genuinely are, and it's getting worse much quicker. But the tiny, tiny percentage that are advanced threats is the concerning thing. And the CTI feed that we use within our NDR is the thing that helps us. That's the key bit of the expertise that's missing. Let's talk a little bit about us. So I joined about 18 months ago. I joined just after we had taken an investment. The company was started in 2014 by 2 engineers. How many engineers are in the company? Over 140, loads. Yeah. They're all engineers, basically. There's no marketing and sales and fluffy people. It's all people that work on product, or they are experts in their field. So if you go and talk to the machine learning guy, he is an expert in machine learning. If you talk to the supervised hybrid semi-learning AI expert, they are an expert in semi-supervised AI. So we build very much an engineering product. We took in capital to grow the company outside of France. It was built off of the back of a hack at BNP Paribas, 2014. It brought down the entire bank. They could not trade, and 2 guys came in and said, we can fix this problem. It's a shellcode issue. We've developed this technology, and they fixed that problem. And from that, they grew the business and built the business into what Gatewatcher is today. We are now growing into the APAC region, DACH region, Belgium, and also the UK. And again, I go back to InfoSec a year ago. We were telling people, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and kind of interesting conversations. But we just introduced on the company. Today was quite mind-blowing in terms of some of the conversations I've had, and also some of the conversations I've had in the last 6 months, where I'm talking to companies that are hosting, looking after, managing, and are involved with quite substantial elements within every aspect of industry: manufacturing foodstuffs, building cars, flying aeroplanes, looking after free ports, every vertical you can possibly think of. And all of them are saying, how do we deal with this problem? Because we think we know what's going on. We think we know what the threats are, but we're really not sure. And we're still trying to find a real technology that really does it, because we know they make AV, but they keep saying they do NDR. So unfortunately, the business has changed from a marketing business, from a technical business to a market sales business. So we do quite well. We look at an awful lot of threats, and we have got quite a lot of patents on the technology. This is quite a good quote, this, I think. Do you actually know what's going on? You'll be wandering around this morning and yesterday, and I literally say to people, so blah, 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 it's an APT. Hands up who knows what an APT is. Okay, tell me what an APT is. I'm not. What does that mean?
This is usually owned by the government, a group of hackers choosing the target, and they want to get access to the target, where the cargo hacker is just this kind of network to find the vulnerabilities in the network and then hack.
Damn, that's good. A year ago, not many people could answer that question. So it's an advanced persistent threat. It's something possibly from a state, possibly from criminal actors, possibly from individuals, activists, religious groups, you name it. But it's something which has got purpose based on value. So instead of them just sending you a phishing email to 25 million people, you click on the link and say, oh, whoopsie, I've done something wrong. This is a sustained, continual threat over a period of time. And it follows a set path. It looks at trying to get in the system, so it reconnoites, then it works out where it's going to go, then it payloads, then it detonates. So it goes through stages. Some of them are different. Some of them are different ways of getting in. Some of them happen at different times. But an advanced persistent threat is exactly that. Something that's very difficult to detect, that might not even be whole. It might be in pieces, and then is sent over a period of a long period of time that's designed to do something, usually take control of something or action something. And then you get the phone call. Please send me. It used to be they took the data and they sold it. Or it used to be they took the money or the credit card data and they sold it. Now, do you think they break in the front door of your house? Or do you think they nip over the fence and climb in the back gate with your key? They do not come at you from the front door. They're not going to come at you from the obvious network. They're going to come at you from other ways. When they get there, are they going to steal your television? Yeah. There's no money in the television. You claim on your insurance. They put your premium up £10. You got a brand new telly. If they break in and they steal your entire family album of photographs and all the things that are most important to you that you may have collected over 30 years, they will then phone you up and say, would you like them back? So it's a totally different way of threat. Now, that might be pure theft. It might be someone who wants to do something a little bit harmful, somebody who's state actor, making a political point, ex-employees. And it might be an individual, but the individual's swapping in and out. Do you know your enemy? So do you know your threats? Do you know what happens? Do you know what happens when people say there's this IOC, this incident of compromise? Not really. Do you know what a CV is? Do you think so? Do you know what MITRE is? Kind of. Do you know how they've done this? Sort of. Well, not really. It's very difficult to get real information out of the people that we talk to in our industry as to how they actually do these things. Then when someone pops up and says, we have this technology which will find it, you say, well, what do you base it on? How much knowledge do you have about this threat? And that's where CTI comes in, giving you the context and the information. That's what's critical about it, and that's what we use CTI for. Even if threat intelligence provides short-lived indicators. Why would you want to do this quickly? Where everyone talks about mean time to detection, mean time to the remediation. Have you heard that yet? What happens if you don't detect it quickly? I did a presentation yesterday about total economic impact. Remember, we talked about stealing your house, the TV. It's a pain, but you're going to get over it. You're going to get a crime number. What happens if they do target you or your business or your organization? Brand reputation, employee comfort, data loss. I have had the conversations where the person says, I have had to take out a personal loan to pay the ransomware to unlock the accounts package so I can then pay the bill to me. Somebody told me a long time ago, team went in to fix a problem, group of individuals in the room. The guy says, we're here to your disposal to solve the problem. We've been attacked. It's an APT. I'm not sure whether I have a job because I can't get in my email, but we're here to help you. These are terrifying things. It's a tiny little percentage. So you have to think to yourself in your own circumstances, each and every one of you, what bit of you is at risk and what do you value? My email, my mum's email. Yeah, okay, stick it on Yahoo. Who cares, mum? There's nothing of value unless they want to steal crochet patterns. There's not a lot of things going on there. But within your organizations, within your business, what things do you want to protect? What matters to you? How much effort have you applied to protect it? And how much pressure are you under to put the whole lot in the cloud? So I would say to you, try and revert back to the old way of thinking of an onion skin, or at least applying security to your important data, your critical data. Really keep that close to you and let the other stuff drift out, but apply it at different levels. And buy an NDR. Why do you want to buy an NDR? So, Gartner. Who knows Gartner? They haven't done a magic quadrant. What they have done is they did a SOC triad, and they went out and said, these are the bits. Is this your bit? You can do this bit.
I can do.
You do this bit.
It's more the CTI part.
You want to do this? You want to do the CTI? Yes. I'll do this bit then.
Because we start with NDR for that.
Yeah, start with the NDR bit. I like NDR. I'm an NDR guy. So buy EDR. Look, the other thing is, the industry loves telling you what not to buy. If you've got AV, don't switch it off. If you've got endpoint protection, brilliant. You can buy stuff that will switch that off as well. It's not that expensive, but don't turn it off. If you've got database encryption, perfect. Leave it on. If you're patching your servers, brilliant. Keep doing it. If you haven't got an NDR, buy one. There's loads of manufacturers out there. There's a very small list of people that make a real one. There's a very long list of people that say they make one. Gartner have published it. They haven't done a quadrant yet because, well, a whole bunch of reasons, but there is a very short list of people that make them. You should look at the technology and understand what it's protecting you against. That will be the first step on a journey for you then to say, maybe I should look at this. And then SIEM. Great. Why? Because if we find a zero-day attack or we find a ransomware attack and we prevent it and we identify it and you say, well, I don't like that, I'll switch that off, the NDR should then start looking backwards through your historic data. So let's take your hack. We were talking about the hacks. Let me ask you some questions. When were you hacked? Tuesday. No. Not when did you find the attack, when were you hacked? Or, Tuesday. You don't know what you don't know. So the fact that you established an attack profile does not mean that you spotted the threat. And I have a customer, who's not a customer actually, but I have a prospect who has an APT in his system that's been there probably over a year. And he has a piece of technology, which is an NDR, that he bought from my competition. Okay. He spent a lot of money and effort. Okay. Guess what? He hasn't found it. The reason being he has no historic data. He doesn't put it anywhere. He's only got what's on box, and that particular box doesn't record very long. We only typically record 60 days because the box is doing an awful lot of work. So put it in a SIEM, let the retro engines go back and look for the threat historically, because it might have started payloading in a long, long time before. So buy the things that make sense, and Gartner will tell you, get yourself a SIEM, use the EDR, buy an NDR. That's great. So you've got this NDR that's got all this clever stuff and looks for things and has got a whole bunch of engines. Is it clever? We use both rules and AI, okay? So we use a whole bunch of AI engines. The clue is in the term artificial. It's artificially intelligent. So we will not let any of those AI engines make a decision. We will always make a human make the decision based off the information we give it. So how smart is that information is the question. How do you make a computer know as much as it possibly can about current threats right now that change every day, unless you let the AI engines decide? But an AI engine will only learn habit. It will only learn what's happened in the past. So it won't even be ramped up to speed for 30 days. And if you include a bunch of rules, what's a lot of rules? 14,000, 5,000, 16,000. We put 100,000 plus on the box and update 6,000, 8,000 every day. So for every day while you're doing your job, 8,000 new nasty things come along. Are you going to find those things? How do you find them? Do you put them in your system right now? Do you have anything in your networks which is telling you what's going on in the real world right now and helping you protect it? So there's two distinct functions. One is identifying the threat and then doing something about it. And if you haven't got one, you are a target. All you're trying to do is buy yourself time, find it quickly, minimize the damage, or hope they move on to someone else. So on that note, I'll pass over and tell you why you need the CTI part, because without that, our NDR is done.
Thank you. Yes, and I will quickly talk about CTI and sort of what is it, because of course it's approximately an acronym everyone known, but at the end it's really particular and it could be a huge amount of data and information. So cyber threat intelligence is based on intelligence in meteorite style. Of course, the main objective is to understand the trend for diverse threats and in threat intelligence and incident response part. At the end, we have multiple parts in the game of cyber threat intelligence. So we are split it in 4 parts in this case. Some parts could be really close to each other, but we'll talk about usages and who we use this kind of data. The first one, it's the low-level usage, is the technical one. Honestly, for each of you, it's normally indicator of compromisions, because actually it's approximately that. The main goal of that is to have some technical report usable by machine, of course, cybersecurity systems, like NDR, of course, but not only. We, of course, could be included this kind of data in XDR, CM, EDR, and whatever equipment could help you to detect and enrich or have a better comprehension about specific threats and technical one. The main guide is to really help SOC team in this kind of case, because with this integration, you can reduce your time to, for example, your hunting, if you are in a CM and you have huge capacity, or real-time detections. It's for that, the technical part is normally the main and the first one you need to do for your SOC team. Because if you really want to have good information, really few false positive, you need to have good intel. So it's the first step to have a quick success in detection and hunting part. The second one, it's more the operational one. So it could be a specific report, always technicals, but with enough context to help your SOC run team and your incident response team. At the end, I took always this example, but we have also see each time, okay, I have a suspicious alert without context. It could be a file on the network or on your iron port or whatever. And it's okay, it's a good start, but after that, we need really to work to understand what is the threat. So if you have all the information about, for example, it's a malware, the family, with technique links, if exploited a dedicated vulnerability, or we have information maybe more technical sometimes, file type, and other information you can do to do your triage for your level 1 and level 2 on your SOC, or help to solve the incident for your incident response team. It's really useful and really powerful, because honestly, if you need to start to reverse engineer the malwares, you will lose hours sometimes. And we want to have information about, for example, other part of the infrastructure of the scenario of the attack. It took time, it cost money, and during an incident, I know that. Sometimes we can talk easily million per hour or more for some of you. So clearly, if you have enough information to do the triage efficiently and solve the incident quickly, because we will talk about that after, it's important to have, of course, cybersecurity intelligence, but a really key visibility in your network system. But it's another story for the NDR part after. The third part, it's more mix between technical part and non. It's a tactical one. So it's to follow the trend for the new technique, for example, used by cyber threat actors, malwares, and to help and understand what is the new tricks, what is the new file type used by a specific actor to bypass your EDR, or what is actually the new trend in cybersecurity, technically to help, in this case, CERT, CCERT, and SOC managers. I don't write SOC manager because it's too long for the slide, but in fact of that, you have the possibility to have use cases because you can understand the trade, and after that, you can work to say, okay, if I'm worried about these malwares and I know these new techniques arrive, it's really important for you to say, okay, how I can solve and detect it. So with this kind of information, you can follow the new trends, have information about new threats and new risk for your company. And the last one is more high-level visions about strategic part. It's more for CISO, some CERT, like more global CERT, to have a big pictures of the trend of cyber threat. It's more, in this kind of case, we talk more about report in geopolitics, for example, or big trends on news about specific risk. So it's more a subject about how I will avoid a big risk on a big trend, like also, for example, the ransomware will maybe target Linux, and maybe it could be interesting to CISO to know that, to add, for example, for India, to have maybe all the traffic of your server Linux, to follow the future risk in this area, and have the possibility to check the box at the end, say, okay, I know my risk, I maybe invest on it, or maybe I have something to do it, but I can check and be sure I have not full coverage because it's impossible, but a good coverage and maturity about the subject. After that, we will start to talk about why threat intelligence actually is interesting for detection and hunting. And the first part is really tough, but a classic one. Actually, we have always more data every day. You know that we have new logs, new events, new equipment, new cybersecurity tools and platforms. And with these kind of things, we have a huge data lake, I'm sure, about thousands of terabytes of data per year. And at the end of that, it's not humanly possible to analyze by yourself. So you need to automate that and update information. I'll talk later about the new trend, new possibility. And we know that threats constantly evolve. Threat actors constantly find bypass on cybersecurity platforms or try new techniques about that. So if you don't follow the new trends, okay, we will. I can have quick example, really easy. Every one of you know. You will update your antivirus, of course, because you say, okay, the signature is not really good. After maybe 1 day, 2 days, a month. But it's the same thing with your cybersecurity equipment at the end. Of course, you can have a good CM with use case, but if you don't evolve the use case with a new threat and new risk, at a moment, it will be deprecated. And it's the same thing without threat intelligence, technical and tactical, you can't succeed to have really good following of the new trend of cyber threat on malware activities, because you have no idea, for example, with new process injections or new packing system or other things like that. So with these kind of things, you have the possibility to automate your detections and always follow your trend. And at the end, the automation of all these parts have the most interesting part for you. It's, of course, your SOC team and hunting team is really busy every day, every time. And if you don't automate this part, of course we would need to do it humanly. And honestly, I did it in the past, and it's really, really time consuming because we'll talk really few things. Life cycle on indicator or rules. It's honestly, if you're a small company or big company, it's multiple days per week. If you want to be update and do humanly this part, and at the end, if you want to follow and track all your risk with all the new threats manually, in fact, you don't do this. It's impossible because you don't have thousands of people to track on your system. So you need to automate this part and do the work like this. Now, I suppose Adrian will help me a little bit about your favorite subject, the NDR part. Yes, it's more your part in this case. Because you can talk about the full integration and product.
So yeah, we talked about NDR. NDR's great, and it does some. If you've got a good NDR, it's got lots and lots of engines in it that does the work. So this is Gartner's view of the world, the SOC triad, of the 3 things you need to be protected for your SOC. We talked about the volume of data. I have had the conversation. We found it. Well, we found part of it, and we found it Tuesday, but we think the team missed it because it came in Friday, and it's gone too far, and now we need to fix it. So this time to detection and actually spotting it, even if it's an electronic and then passing it to the SOC, they've got to see past the noise. So the NDR should be giving you just the threats, not all the false positives. There are a lot of technologies out there that create lots of false positives. If every kid in the playground punches each other in the face, it sees that as normal behavior, and then it tracks down from that. If you've already got an APT or a threat in the system, it will keep playing that as normal behavior. Therefore, it will remember that and keep reporting it. So you'll then put in systems or technology that will switch that off, and therefore you really don't know whether you've got a real positive or not. So choose wisely. But these are the 3 elements. EDR. EDR is great, as I said. $350. You can switch it off. 3,500. You can get all 64 turned off. They're still fighting that. It's one of the problems with EDR. And also, it doesn't account for all traffic. Networks are great. You can hack in on them if you've got OT devices, if you've got IoT devices, if you're manufacturing, if you are running oddball protocols. That's the first thing I'm going to try and hack into and then laterally jump across. Why? Because you're not going to look for me there. So endpoint's a piece of the puzzle. Great at IT, not so great, give you total coverage. And NDR should look at 100% of all network traffic. We actually have our box hardware ratified. So if somebody says, you know what, I think I'll change the Ethernet to a different model, absolutely not. It then becomes de-ratified from the standards that we have to adhere to, because one single packet dropped is a 0 failure. So we're not allowed to do that. If someone says you can do it in software, good luck. It's quite complicated. And a seam to relate to those logs. You've got an awful lot of content. Why do you want to store the content? A tip, there's 2 ways of storing content. What are the 2 ways of storing content? PCAP, heard of PCAP? How big are PCAP files? Huge. Okay, big. So if you want a big storage bill, so if you're selling hard drives and you're selling storage, great. I'll sell you a PCAP. You should store PCAP, sir. We don't. We use metadata. So we've got 1% of that traffic. We look at what happens between it. We carry only about 60 days on the box, though. If you start loading up the NDR with like 14, 15, 16 engines, it's a lot of work because it's doing it live, remember. Every time a bunch of zeros and ones is coming in, it's analyzing it, finding the threat, and then looking at the next bunch of packets. Think about that and how big the network is. If it's 10 meg, okay. If it's 600 gig, it's a telco, that's a big deal. If you plug it into the internet, you just flood it. It'll never do it. So the edge of the perimeter for us is the network. But whatever something is coming into the network, we want to capture it, we want to analyze it, we want to report on it, which is great. And that's what we do. Those 3 things are that we identify a threat. You then want to find that threat. Where is that threat? I've got to look through the historic logs. If I don't have those events, I've got no data to look through. So that's the reason you do it. When we find a 0 day, we kick off a process that looks back through those records, looking for elements that look similar to it, or historic trails, or where it's jumped about. So I'll give you a real world example. Man locks up with laptop, plugs laptop in, happens to be a Mac, has a problem in it, MDM flattens his laptop, says you've got a problem with your laptop, you've got an APT on it, kills it. Switches it off, leaves. 6 months later, walks into a different department, different building, different geographic region, plugs it in. System flags up, says, you've got the same problem. Flattens that, kicks off a process, looks through the entire system and finds the update server in a totally different country that rebuilt his laptop is the place where the APT started. So he spent 6 months wandering around, plugging into everything else. So it's worthwhile doing to try and find the 0 day. Everyone talks 0 day. That's the 0 day. The 0 day was an update server, probably infected several years beforehand, through a compromise that's been around for probably 8 years. What's the worst and longest? I think it was SMB, isn't it? The SMB protocol. Yeah. Weakness has been around for donkeys. So, and the latest one I think that happened 2-3 weeks ago was a SMB hack, protocol hack into the file structure. So if you find all these threats, sorry. Yes. Yes. Great question. And I get this all the time. We have, insert the name of a vendor, Palo Alto, Fortinet, SonicWall, Barracuda, WatchGuard, pick any of them, Cisco. So they are doing that job. They're building signature files and looking at layer 0, 1, and 2. This is looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then going back down again. So it's looking at full loaded files and finished. Sorry? How does it do it? It does it incredibly quickly looking for things. So there's two sorts. One is the AI side of it, where it's looking for particular things, shell code, PowerShell. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Beaconing, DJ detect. The bit that's important is if we find a threat, we have to know what that threat is because it's going to have to do it super quickly. Where do we get that information from? We have to have some rules on the box. AI is fantastic. But when you're a kid, someone says to you, don't touch that, it's hot. Oh, okay, I remember that. No one ever says, son, go and play on the motorway and see how dangerous it is. They don't do that. They say, don't go in the road, stay away from the road's dangerous. You learn by sets of rules, and then you try and apply intelligence to them. So we use both rules and AI. So what gives us those rules? What do we use that would give us the information our parents gave us as to what's good and what's bad, and how many do we have to take in to have any sensible chance of catching things? We use a thing called CTI. So that is our NDR. It's in 3 stages. It does detection, it does investigation, and then it does response. It doesn't do remediation. Remediation is after the event, and we use a human being to decide what we do. So people are going to go, oh, my firewall does it automatically. Oh, great, that's fantastic. Did it make a good decision? Was it a threat that was learnt by AI, or was it a $30 million banking transaction that you didn't want blocked? Yeah. Or was it a healthcare issue? It was a health environment or a military environment or a government, and it just decided to switch something off. So we have to have a SOC engineer, a human intervention at some point, and the trick is to give that human being the best possible knowledge, not data, the best possible knowledge to make the best decision they can possibly make at that period of time. We use a thing called Last InfoSec to feed into our NDR all the rules, all the signatures, all the information that we can possibly find out about everything we can possibly find out to bring that machine up to a level where it can then apply AI engines as well. We are unique in that. The fact that we use multiple systems to try and catch things along the payload. Because, as you'll see, people do staged attacks, and an IPS will only ever find traffic anomalies based on single signatures. It will never look beyond that. So if I knew that was where the issue was, it's like if something was encrypted 13 times, what would you do next? You'd encrypt it 14 times. And that's what's going to miss it. So the information is critical, the knowledge is critical. Otherwise, it's just a dumb box trying to learn its way through life as quickly as humanly possible, even with AI. Where do we get that information from? Last InfoSec, which is our CTI.
But I suppose the next part is yours too.
No. I can talk about that. We can still talk about that. We can talk about detection. So, static rules. Fixed. 0 day. Everyone says 0 day. What does that really mean? It means it's something new. It just means it's something it's not seen before. What's the chance of something being completely new? Totally new. Pretty slim. There's been a few instances, but a lot of it is modifications of existing technology or existing code or a new version of something that's already been seen. So if you have some history behind you, you can then move on. But 0 day detection is critical, because if you can't find it, you don't know what it is, it will create damage. That was the whole purpose of it. So you want to do static detection, and you also want to do dynamic detection. And you can do that through static rules. You can do that through malware. We happen to run 16 different engines on our malware. Why do we run 16? 4 geographic regions. Because, well, the latest series of hacks that have happened, one of which was produced by an organization that was based out of what was formerly CIS countries, used to have some software in it that said, if you've got the Cyrillic character set installed, then you can detonate and just delete yourself. They removed that and then they gave it away. So it's quite common that what used to happen was state actors had very good, powerful technology, and that was it. There's nothing better than empowering other people. So what they do is they take really clever technology, commoditize it, weaponize it, build new versions of it, use AI to build new versions of it, and then distribute it to large volumes of people for specific impact. Or embed it in places. For instance, the latest one that was done by Saudi, is it Sudan Anonymous? Sudan? It's not Sudan Anonymous. They were originally called Sudan Anonymous. There's a new group called Sudan Anonymous that have done this recent hack, but they're hanging off the back of the fact they're religious zealots. They're not. They're a different group. They just called themselves Sudan Anonymous. It's a complex market, and it's a difficult one to get on, and you need those facts. You need that information, but you're never going to keep up. It's millions. The expert in the room, the guy who started the CTI business, is saying, I cannot keep up. I don't know. So there's millions. It's more. The computers do it. It's vast amounts of stuff coming in. We boil that down to about 6,000 to 8,000 rules, put that on the box every day. And we can do that air-gapped if you so desired, if it was that sort of customer. AI is brilliant, but it's artificial. So what you want to do is have a bunch of engines doing things, looking at stuff, looking at specific threats. Are you probably, can you see that or not? That's a fair ways away for you. Sorry to move around, but static detection, rules-based engines that are looking at metadata, that are looking at signature flow, the traffic between devices. Because again, the north-south issue we used to face, IPSs, north-south, it's now lateral flow across the network. Come in on one thing, jump across to another thing, go to another thing, and then in payload into that. And then looking at Malcore, which is signature-based again. Then you've got a whole bunch of stuff over here, which is intelligent, AI-based. Different forms of AI. Everyone says, oh, we got AI. What does that mean? Hybrid AI, supervised AI, semi-supervised, machine learning, deep learning. What does that mean? And there are other people in our organisation who I sit down with in our headquarters in the La Défense in the cybersecurity defence building. That's where we're based. It's an amazing building. The wall is 15 times this size and all digital. It's just a giant digital wall. And sit down with these guys at lunch and sort of say, oh, I know a little bit about AI. And within 10 minutes, I'm lost within seconds. It's a different world. These guys are geniuses. And he's only dealing with one little piece of this. So you've got to run all this stuff simultaneously, remember, on every packet that's coming in. So you're looking at DJA, and the retro engines are out doing active work. Go and find this, but also doing retrospective, digging into prior data. CTI, command and control, pumping stations, manufacturing, OT devices, switchgear. Everyone know what a PLC is? Programmable logic controllers. Brilliant. Turn them off. By nature of the beats, they're called programmable logic controllers. And guess what we're doing? We're plugging them into IT systems. Great stuff. Thank you. Ooh, look at this. Come in, go across, do stuff. Would you like your system switched back on again? Yeah, well, you're going to pay me. Or a 25-day delay or a stoppage interrupts supply chain, affects the state of the workers go on strike, has a social impact. Very useful for certain people. There's a whole bunch of reasons why people do things. The problem is it impacts you. So think about your organization and the impact it would have on you if any of these APTs and threats happen. So then we've got more traditional but really complex stuff. Shellcode, PowerShell. It's a new world in its own right. That's where we came from. That's where our two founders built their technology, and we have our IP within that. Ransomware detection. Okay, people do ransomware detection. We do ransomware detection too. And then you've got beacon detecting. Also got things like DJA, modification of URLs and domains. There's an awful lot. And guess what? Another 6 months from now, there'll probably be another 3 or 4 engines in here. And another year, there'll be one dropped and another 2 in. It is constantly evolving. The key bit is to feed information into the system and connect to everything else. Do not be an island. So when someone says to me, well, can we look at the back end? I mean, yeah, it's elastic. Okay, we can do that. We can connect to that. If it's not got a really strong API, don't buy it. Because you'll just be a world of pain. Oh, I want it to go into the single pane of glass. Yes, you should do that. Try and minimize the headache of installing or implementing any technology, particularly NDR. But make it smart. We use the CTI as a fundamental piece of our static rules. Without that, it's a dumb box because it's only doing AI, which is artificial intelligence. So one particular thing. Why do you want to do so many engines? Why don't you do just one, do it in software and save yourself a hell of a lot of money and time and effort? That's why. That is a standard kill chain. So no matter what they're doing, no matter which way they come in, they will come in and they'll go through these phases in your business. They will reconnoit. They will work out. In the old days, when someone wanted to break in your building, burglar wanders around the house, works out what time you go to work, where you park your car, how long it takes you to walk from your car to your house. They will check out because the value of the data is worth it. That's the point of an APT. They will work out what you're up to. Then they will then weaponize something. They will look to attack you with something. What have we got that will suit this task? They will then deliver that. And they won't deliver it by knocking on the front door and saying, would you like to hold this? They will not do it that way. They will look for the most obtuse, unusual. Who knows much about the SolarWinds attack? Everyone heard about the SolarWinds attack, I think. But if you think back what that really meant, that was a company that put something in an update server in a piece of software which was designed specifically to look and do asset management within networks. Very clever. Great place to do. And they're getting better. That was a long, long time ago, remember? And they've got better at that since then. Then they'll try and exploit that attack. They'll deliver it into your system. They'll then do something. Can we jump to here? Can we go and control that? Can I use a command and control? Can I payload this in and stop this database? Then they'll do an installation, take control of something, and then they'll action on objectives. I got a slide up yesterday that says negotiation. And I think it's not what it means, but it's a great, we've translated it from French into English, but it's the perfect example. At this stage, you're in negotiation mode. We have done this. What would you like to do now? I mean, they're not going to ring you, but you'll get the email. You'll get the contents. So that's the process that we're trying to stop, and we're trying to catch things at every stage of that. So if you buy a signature-based technology, brilliant. It's going to analyze across the entire process at a level, depending on what you buy. But it'll probably miss something. It might miss something. It definitely will miss something. Because I'm going to try and work around that. Static rules. So if you buy something that's static rules only, they'll jump past it. But static rules are really good at exactly that. Advanced contexting, retro hunting, specific profiling, speed, identifying a particular threat, matching it, doing something. That's what they're good at. So people build other technologies. So you might want something that specifically looks exploit threat detection, shellcode, polymorphic. So it targets our engines, look particularly here at that exploitation and delivery method. Different tool, different engine, different form of attack, just as virulent, different way of doing it. So we've carried on and built a whole series of engines that look across that chain, because we know that's the pattern they all follow, whether that's malware, different regions, 16 different engines, for Trojans, different payload types, right the way through to AI. I think that's it. It's like one, isn't it? No, it should be another couple of lines. Yeah, there you go. We've got AI. Okay, we've all got AI, and that's brilliant. What sort of AI, and what's it trying to detect, and why are you using this type of AI for this type of attack profile? So you look for something with a blend. And when you read the Gartner report on what you should buy for NDR, it says, look for a blend of technologies. Brilliant. That's what we do. Signature-based rules and AI. So the AI, as I said, works really, really well at a point. But, and it's a big but, you've got to make the system clever up the front from the engines.
So yes.
Yeah. One more. I'm going to give it to him. It's his fault.
So yes, we know actually it's interesting to have a lot of engine. It's a good thing to have a vision about every kind of things. A mix in machine learning, the shellcode analysis, antivirus, signature based. It's a good start. But I say earlier, okay, it's like everything. If you don't update it and don't have the good intelligence, each models, each engine will reduce the effect and will be deprecated. So we work with Gatewatcher to update it, and how we do it, it's with, of course, threat intelligence. And how we do our threat intelligence is not really complicated. It's really split in these five steps. The first one, we created a really big platform, this big data platform dedicated to analyze threat. And we don't analyze report for other and say, okay, we saw that on a report, so we are sure. Our vision is to say, okay, we want to analyze threat because we are a tech companies really passionate by cybersecurity and threat analysis. So it's more our vision. So we launched that and say, okay, work on the first. We need to collect a huge amount of data. So we start massively to collect data on internet. So we have more than 3,000 points of collect, split in social network, hunting track infrastructures, sandbox detections, everywhere, some database, telemetry, partners, and our passion is to collect data at the moment for this part, because if you have a huge amount of data, we would analyze a huge amount of threat, we would create a huge amount of threat intelligence, technical, tactical, and operational. At the end, collecting data is good things, but if I just say, okay, some Twitter guy say me it's a malware, ashes, okay, I will put in productions to detections. Yes, but your false positive rate could be really, really crazy at this moment, because if you don't analyze by yourself all the data and you don't validate all, you don't have the possibility to have useful and efficient threat intelligence. Because if you have 80% of false positive without context, everyone totally don't care. You can transform your CM in Christmas candles, and it's at the end the same things. You don't use it, you have too much false positive, and your team never look at it. So every data we enter into these platforms is analyzed with 150 evaluators different. It depends on the chain, file type, metadata, on other things, but everything is automated, analyze it, and enriched. Because, of course, I said before, if you have just a suspicious information, it's interesting, but without the context, we will work both on twice more about your incident. So you need to work on it and have enough context. And of course, our vision is say the context will be understable. So we have technical information, basic one, file name, size, file type, and other basic things to do the job, but also all the contextual on the attack. All is done in the Mitra attack framework, of course, because at the moment, a malware have 10, 20 name different. It depends of your favorite AV or EDR editors. But with this framework, of course, we know we have multiple alias, but we have only one ID at the end with meter attack. So it's the same thing for the techniques, it's the same thing for threat actors. We have the same language, we have the same vocabulary to succeed and understand everything. So they reduce your time to understand and to take risk. And the last part is not least, for me, it's because, of course, if you have one IOC for, I don't know, a maldoc, it could be great. But our vision is to say, okay, I really want to have all the scenarios of the attack, because we know that we can generate billion of maldoc, but the second stage will be normally less, and the first stage of the infections, it will be always less. So if you have all the infections, honestly, you can prioritize easily your incident, because if all match run, it's a good idea. But in this case, if you have also a good way to optimize your detection, to say, okay, I have the vision at the beginning of the stage 1, I have a maldoc. Stage 2, I have a Windows binary. Stage 3, I have a dedicated DLL to hijack specific functions. And honestly, if you have one of these steps, you can directly show the risk. And if you don't have in our database the first stage, but the second one and the third one, it could be really helpful to detect that quickly. And it's really important for us. And why it's really important for us is because we have automate all the platforms until the qualification of the data. Of course, all the engine we have score, and at the end enrich automatically. If, of course, we have a doubt, we have security analysts. Our first idea is to reduce the number of false positives and even enough context. If we don't succeed with both sides, we need to work. So we have security analysts for that. And the purpose always new evaluators, new enrichers to automate every time. So every month we develop new evaluators. Every month we develop new collectors to increase our capacity and reduce the time of analysis in our side. And of course, at the end, with all this data we export it with multiple formats. Classical one, sticks 2 and 2.1. Normally, huge amount of editor on the cybersecurity markets can use it. We have some exceptions, the old-fashioned one. But in this kind of case, you have other exporter, and for the complex integrations, you have the possibility to create application, for example, Splunk or OpenCTI on Palo Alto XR. We develop connector to have an easy integrations, because if you took more time than us to do the job, is not our vision. So the main goal is to say, okay, we'll be efficient and we'll do the job. So with all these platforms, we can create technical, operational, tactical cyber threat intelligence fields. We have a big database with all our threat intelligence and IOC to say, okay, I will submit a hash, domain, URL, and we will send you all the information we have and all the context in the scenario of an attack, a dedicated attack. And after that, we have also vulnerability feed. And maybe we'll be announcing something about identity intelligence in few weeks. But it's for another story. For my part, yes, no problem.
So the scenario that you built, so what do we do with it? Are we using it in CM products, or like how do we integrate that?
Actually, you can use it in a CM product, an EDR, and in NDR, of course. But the vision say of, for example, a scenario of attack, it looks like a sticks report, and you have, for example, all the hashes. You have an URL with a link to say, okay, this URL is linked to this maldoc. This maldoc is linked to this other URL they contact via the VBA script, and this VBA script call another URL to download another binary, and all this information allows you to detect it.
Okay, so where on my side?
Yes.
On my systems, where do I keep that scenario? Like,
In fact, if you have a CM, I don't know what kind of CM you have, but you can normally enter, we'll take an easy way, a Splunk CM. You can use all the threat intelligence informations to match with your logs to, of course, do hunting and detection part, to have new alert without change your process at the end. Because it's like your AV at the end. You add signature to detect, and this kind of case, you have data and intelligence to have better detection and new information to help your cybersecurity equipment to improve and optimize it. So I will check. I will do a really quick time on this slide, but it will just to explain quickly. We have multiple products. We talk about Last InfoSec, IonIQ, IonByte. All the platform can of course work together. We will talk more during the presentation and demonstration after that, the integration of Last InfoSec and IonIQ. But in this kind of case, of course, we have telemetry from IonIQ. So IonIQ send data to Last InfoSec to be analyzed and launch in this kind of things. Of course, it's not all our customers because on-premise customers don't send telemetry. It's a deal with defense and other important company like this. In fact, we needed to accept to exchange information. But the most interesting part is, of course, with the Last InfoSec data, you can do hunting and detection automatically and always update. And you don't need to manage life cycle of indicator on your life cycle of rules too. So when the feed say this IOC is deprecated because, for example, URL is down, so the threat is not existent for the moment, and say, okay, it's the scenario of the attack is finished. You say, okay, just check in hunting mode if you have something in the past, and we stop it. And we have all multiple ways like the rule like this to manage the rules and have a really good and intense life cycle systems to avoid to have 30 million of rules stay in your detection system. The other part, of course, we have dashboarding, web platform to analyze. Also, if you go outside the box on the products, and you have a vision with dashboarding for new trends, like if you want to follow specific sectors, specific targeting country, specific malware information, we have the possibility to have dashboarding on all this kind of stuff. So I'll really do really quickly the demonstrations. So it's split in 3 times. The first one is just to show it's really how it's easy to integrate threat intelligence in the NDR. The second one is how we detect a simple threat in this kind of case in active detections. And the second one is we will show how to use the hunting to detect a past threat. I will just launch a video. Now it's started, I hope. Yes, so it's a classic platform, IonIQ. So to integrate the data, it's really easy. You just need to add the license, check the box, all is downloaded, all is integrated, new rules is added, the life cycles for new rules will be done, and the hunting mode for each time will be, the platform will be updated, we will check in the past all the things. So we will add so we have a new rule set in this kind of case to manage the detection mode with cyber threat intelligence. In this kind of case, we have the possibility to access to all our rules will be included in the platforms. All these rules will be managed automatically. So I say if a rule will be deprecated or unuseful, will be deleted, and we'll add automatically and create the new rule automatically too. So they help a lot of these kind of things. And of course, we have access to all the threat intelligence information inside our platforms. So with our vision and dashboard, I just wait a little bit because I am too fast. But yes, we have just with this button access to all the information with all the content for each indicator of compromisions to say if you are in incidents and you want to search something on our database because it's maybe not in the same scope or other things like that, you can have an access to the data and enrich your own system. So we have multiple information like classic metadata. If, for example, you have always a small descriptions to be human readables because, of course, a JSON is not always comfortable. So we put little paragraph to explain what is linked to indicators, if you have vulnerabilities, specific TTP, file type, and other things like that. All it's possible for these kind of things. And I don't know if you can see there because it's really small, but you explain the usage of the data. It's a way to manage this case. For these platforms, at the beginning we have really few data on it. The 4 metadata is just for the hunting exercise after that. But just now we will play a pcap to show a little bit how the platform works. So we launch a new thread with this pcap, and we'll see we will have new metadata inside the platforms. And with that, we'll launch some new alerts, and with this alert, we can detect new threat. So we will see two new alerts in this case. So we will enter directly in the theme of our presentations. It's a classic thing, really basic. It's just the threat is just a basic phishing. You can see we have two alerts, one on the HTTP protocol, one on the DNS protocol based on a specific and dedicated domain or on this threat. This one at the moment of the presentation will be online, of course, but now it's offline because we know that the phishing part is really we don't upload a lot of time. So we have all the information on your network infrastructure, IP source, IPDS, all what you need, of course, about the rules, the information about the threat, the risk, and the categories of the risk, if it's always enabled or not. All this information allow you to take decision, do your triage quickly, and have new information about the future step on your future risk. So we can have, of course, information about your user agent and other things like that to check if your guy connect on it, because of course it's a domain. So if the domain is just have an error 4004, maybe you deprioritize the risk and you reduce the instance. So we have the capability to have all this vision, reduce your time of analysis, to have a really quick view. And our vision is to reduce the number of false positives. So normally if you have an alert like this, it's direct like that. Our second exercise is to say, okay, we have access to the metadata. We will just show you, we have push a PCAP with a specific maldoc on it. Maybe it will arrive soon, because I need to just change the timeline. So we have just there Microsoft document. The name will be, we will see just after, we know it's invoice doc. It looks like a classic maldoc name, but it's just for the exercise. And we have no alert for the moment, because actually any engine detects it, because it's maybe dedicated one or specific something, and we have no information about that. And the way to do the second part and the last part is to do hunting mode. Normally, of course, all the updates is do automatically, except if you are on-prem without internet, but it's another subject, we can do this. But in this kind of exercise, we just upload the new update to show how to detect the threat and how do the job at the end automatically. So, because if we automatically do the update, we don't see anything, because we have just the alert, not like a really hunting alert. So we just put manually the update for the exercise today, but of course, all is automatic at the end. So we just need to import the rules, import the threat intelligence data, and wait, because all it's automatic. When we update, we check all the metadata in the past, present on the platforms, and if someone match, normally soon, we will see a new alert in the past of your investigations, and we will see, okay, I need to, of course, we see a peak, and we can see directly the threat and say, okay, let's go to analyze it, because we have a past attack, and what is it? And in this kind of case, it's really small, sorry. Last time we have a bigger screen, but it's a Locky bot in this case, and it's a hashes with all the signature information of the maldoc, so Locky bot maldoc. And in this case, we can have more information about the alert, because we have all the data about, of course, all the information on visibility on your network, so IP source, IPDS, if the downloading succeeded or not, if you have some other information about the enrichment you can do about some IP, of course, all the threat intelligent enrichment, so small paragraph about what is this threat, is linked to dedicated malware in this case, so Lockybot and Silver Terrier, and all the other parts we can say and have information about the file type, the fuzzy hash linked, all the metadata present on the platforms, and at the end, we can see directly the information about this maldoc exploit old school vulnerability, and it's really small, so I don't really succeed to read it, but it's something in 2027. So all this information will be included, so we can easily do your triage, easily solve your incident at the end. And for example, if you know the destination workstation has been patched for this vulnerability, you can say, okay, it's not impact me. If it's not patched, maybe you need to start and continue your investigation. So to summarize a little bit this part, for us, why it's important to work with NDR and CTI, it's because NDR allows you to have really big visibility. And visibility on your network and your infrastructure is the first key to do the work. If you have no security equipment, honestly, threat intelligence can only explain to you the risk you will have, not all the other part. So if you have that with multiple system of detections or engine, it could be a good start. But if you want to be mature on this subject, want to follow the future incident and reduce your future risk, you need to have cyber threat intelligence and automate all this part. Because if you do manually, in fact, you need to have an army to do the job, and it's really easy to automate. In few clicks and 2 updates, honestly, it could be not really complicated in this kind of case. And why it's important at the end to automate that is you reduce your risk, you reduce your time, you reduce your cost during an incident, and it could be really effective and powerful for your team. And if you want to keep your team, it could be a good thing to say you have only to do the triage and resolve the incident with a really few false positive. So maybe if you have some question, or Adrian, if you have something to add.
I do.
Yeah, I always do.
I do have something to add. I'm sorry the screen's small. That's the first thing I'll say. The thing I'd like to say to you is if you haven't got an NDR, have a look at the technology. If you have another technology you're using, SIEM, EDR, look at making it smarter by adding in CTI. Correct. So from my perspective, I'm sitting here saying, buy an NDR. We use the best CTI we could possibly get our hands on. We actually bought it. We thought it was that good. But it is an absolute standalone in its own right. So if you have investment in other technology, buy it. Just so the point I'm making is, if you're not going to buy my stuff, that's fine. But at least take a look at the best CTI. There are a number of other players in CTI out there. Every time I see them, they say, wow, we're looking at 14,000 of these things a day. And I'm like, 14,000? You told me 1 million a day, automated. So it's a different world. And it's about the data capture and longevity and how broad your church is and how much you're bringing in. And as you've seen, it's super technical. It gets to the point where what you're seeing on that screen is the actual process of seeing the real threat, which is the bit that I couldn't get my head around. I go, okay, now I see that. They found a real threat. They've told me this. They look at this. That's what a SOC engineers do. This thing then transforms their lives in terms of content because it's giving you the intelligence behind it to make you do your job. Otherwise, it's just a boatload of data. And I worked in media for many, many years, and one of the big issues there is the volume of data information you're getting. Data, but there's no knowledge. There's no contextually. You don't know what to believe, and if you really want to believe something, you can watch one TV channel, and if you want to believe something else, you can watch another one. Try and get the best blend of overall content and enable yourself to make a decent decision, and I think that's where CTI does a brilliant job. But it is a very difficult subject. I would highly recommend you come and talk to Monsieur afterwards about the nuances. That question you did want to ask, but you were thinking, I don't really get that bit. He's here. He built that company from scratch. He's the world's leading expert on it. Use him while he's here, because you'll never get another chance. But he does live in London, so you probably will. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your time. Well done, mate. Thank you. Thanks very much, everybody.